Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever in the world you are. This weekend was Zanu PF's primary elections. That's when they get to vote for who is going to represent the party in the coming elections. And it has been a pretty rough affair. Uh, some people have described it as dog eat dog. And it is believed that as many as 30 of the sitting MPs and ministers have lost in the primary elections. And some reports say that most of them are supporters of President Mnangagwa. His rivalry, his VP Chiwenga faction won those 30 seats. In the Zimbabwe parliament, there are 210 MPs, and generally, one third of the MPs go to the opposition. This is what the party normally leaves to entice them to participate. So, roughly 70 will go to the opposition. And if Chiwenga has won 30 MPs from the Mnangagwa faction, with those 30 MPs alone, plus the 70 in the opposition, it means between the two of them, if they were to team up, they've got half the MPs already. And some of the primaries are still to be conducted, so the job is not yet over. But even with that, that's half the seats in parliament. And that could mean trouble for Mnangagwa. He will not be able to ride roughshod over his deputy as he was able to do in the past. And what should be of note here is the remarks of most of the losing Zanu PF candidates. They've all complained that the Zanu PF primaries were rigged. And it is not easy to dismiss that, given that Zanu PF in its own primaries, invariably you'll find they fail to produce a voters roll that is clean. It is quite common to find names added onto the voters roll or deleted the last minute and that sort of thing. That kind of thing happens all the time in Zanu PF. So this would not be the first time it has happened, nor may I say the last time it will happen. But the first question there will be, if Zanu PF is rigging its own primaries, when it comes to the national elections, I think we can expect the rigging to go into overdrive. And in this case here, if Mnangagwa has lost 30 seats, and the opposition was to win the usual one third, which is about 70 seats, you definitely not want to lose any of the remaining seats that he has. And no doubt Chiwenga, for his part, will not want to lose any of the seats that he has to the opposition either. So we can expect the national elections to be a really heated up affair. We know Zanu PF is rigging them. They failed to produce a verified voters roll. The other day, the ZEC announced that nearly 450 new voters have registered in the last month of the voter registration blitz. This is interesting. In the period from November 2018, when the voter registration was officially opened, to 30th of May 2022, ZEC announced that only 250,000 people had registered to vote. So in the last month of this voter registrations blitz, we find more than twice, or nearly twice as many people have registered this time in 1 month than we had registered in the period of 3 years and 6 months. Zanu PF, as a rule, has always registered its supporters very late, the last minute. This is part of the vote rigging. These people who get registered invariably don't appear on the voters roll because they can turn around and say, well, we didn't have time to put them on the voters roll. So they end up voting with their voter registration slips. And we have seen in the last few weeks videos of Zanu PF supporters being bussed in from rural areas like Lomboshala and Goromonzi, being bussed into Harare city center, Harare urban in general, to register there. No doubt come voting day, they will go, they'll be bussed in to come and vote for the party again. So these elections are being rigged. The opposition is participating because they've been promised these few seats, but this time I think our friend Nelson Chamisa may find that those few seats, you will have to end them. Because if Zanu PF are punching each other, fighting seriously, each faction is fighting for survival, we may look at the opposition will be on the receiving end in these elections. What is annoying about our election is that the opposition is insisting in participating in these elections, even though everyone has said these elections are flawed. Let's clean up the voters' roll. Let's clean up the process so that it's transparent. We don't need another disputed election. But tell that to the opposition and wasting your time. It is interesting to note that the European Union in the 2018 elections actually fielded a really strong observer mission team, 246 of them. And they wrote a really detailed report for those elections in 2018. They condemned them as they having failed to meet international standards. In other ways, they were not free, fair, and credible. And they came up with a list of 23 recommendations to be implemented before 2023 elections. What is interesting to note here is Zanu PF has totally ignored those recommendations. They have not implemented not even one of those recommendations. But equally true, the opposition has ignored them. And in many ways, Zanu PF ignored them, confident that the opposition would never take that matter seriously either. This has been the problem with our election. When the opposition MDC were in the GNU of 2008 to 2013, they had the golden opportunity to implement the democratic reforms which should have stopped Zanu PF rigging the elections. They did not implement even one reform, not even one, in 5 years. The only logical explanation for it is, of course, Zanu PF bribed them so that they would not implement any reforms. And it is true. That is exactly what happened. Robert Mugabe bought mini- the usual limousines for the ministers, very generous salaries for the both ministers and MPs, including the opposition, and for Morgan Changirai, the 4 million US dollars mansion in Highlands. And the opposition completely forgot about reforms. Completely forgot about reforms. They did not implement even one reform. The same attitude, they've shown the same attitude when it comes to implementing even one of the 23 recommendations by the European Union. One has got to wonder what is the European Union is thinking right now as we approach these coming elections. Will they be sending a high powered election observer mission again? To what end and purpose? So that they can just pick up the old report and change the date. Because we expect exactly the same problems to have to be repeated. And they will be repeated. The opposition, just like the Zanu PF losing candidates in these primaries, will be complaining that the elections were rigged, as is normally the case. But let me rest assure you, no one is going to take that seriously. You got into these elections knowing that there is no verified voters roll, knowing that not even one recommendation from the European Union had been implemented. The media is still not free, fair, and independent. So we have got ZBC, as is shown in this cartoon, cheering on the side of Zanu PF. And as long as that remains the case in these elections, those aspects alone will show that this election is not going to be free, fair, and credible. So when they complain about the elections were not free, fair, and credible, one can understand it on the one hand. But one has got also to say, you knew that these things would happen. You were warned, were forewarned, and still you decided you were going to participate. In the case of Chamisa, he is insisting that the opposition Triple C has got winning in rigged election strategies. He has talked about those things. Even 2018, he was talking of we have got measures to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. He never revealed what those measures were. At the end of the day, when the elections were rigged, he was the first one to complain that the elections were rigged. He never admitted that, yes, our voter our measures to stop Zanu PF rigging elections did not work. I think this is a cycle that we've got to stop. This is absolute madness. This is insane. Zimbabwe cannot afford to have another election in which Zanu PF blatantly rigs the election and gets back into power. We should denounce these elections for the flawed election process that they are. We should denounce it now and not wait for the day after the elections when the results are announced, when it will be too late. We should also highlight the fact that the opposition is discredited. They are participating in these elections for the sake of the few seats that are being given to them as bait, and they don't care that the election process is flawed. We should demand that Zanu PF should not be given legitimacy for participating in an election process that is flawed, with an opposition that has lost political credibility. That is totally unacceptable. We don't want the country to be dragged into another 5 years of meaningless elections. Sorry, of 5 years of Zanu PF rule because the opposition participated in a flawed process. Let's condemn it now. Let's clean up our process. Let's implement the democratic reforms. And let's finally get to a point where we can hold free, fair, and credible elections. Elections in which everybody who participates can see what is happening, the observers can see what is happening, and everyone at the end of the day can say, yeah, the winner is the winner. And we have got the evidence to show how they won. And the loser can congratulate the winner for winning a clean election. Zimbabwe needs to sort out the process of election. This is first base. Until we get that one correct, the country is going nowhere. And after 45 years now of this meaningless cycle of rigged elections, corrupt and incompetent government, bad governance, and so forth, we need to break that cycle. And this is the solution how to break it. Stop participating in flawed elections. Let's implement the democratic reforms. And only then, when we are sure that the election process is free, fair, and credible, can we meaningfully go into elections. Food for thought. Thank you and good night.